go. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Teacher Casey, and today we have Teacher Rebecca and Teacher Kelly will be here shortly. So, hey, Rebecca, thanks for joining me this morning.
Hi, glad to be here.
Thanks. So why don't you introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Teacher Rebecca. I have a YouTube channel, Teacher Rebecca Online Teaching. I've taught for various online companies in the past. Currently, I'm teaching with Outschool, a little bit Tutor ABC, going back to VIP Kid a little bit. And I'm excited about today's topic because I have kiddos now who are old enough to be in school. A couple years ago, infants. But now I've got a second grader and a preschooler and a 1-year-old. So he's not in school yet. But I can talk as a parent as well as I used to be a classroom teacher as well. So kind of been all of them.
Yeah, I find this topic super interesting. So I'm going to read what we found on Facebook, which sparked our discussion in our group and why we're bringing it to you today. So I have seen this all over Facebook lately. It says, you have 7 hours to teach my kids. If you can't fit it in, do it tomorrow. We get 4 hours with our kids after school to bedtime. I'm not wasting it on homework. Life skills and family time matter just as much. True. I agree. Life skills matter a ton, and family time, I mean, you can't put a price tag on family time. So, yeah, I don't know, Rebecca. I feel like this is a catch-22 for teachers. I told you my feelings. Because as a teacher, I taught kindergarten and I also did student teaching in first grade. And what I found was I can't please them at all. So some parents want homework, some parents don't. So one year I was like, okay, I'm not going to do homework, family time. And then I had parents complaining that I wasn't doing homework. And then I send homework, and then I have parents complaining that I send homework. So my solution to that was kind of twofold. One is I would send a weekly packet on Monday, and the kids had till Friday to do it. And it was short, fairly easy. So, for example, read with your parent, or practice tying shoes, practice zipping up your jacket, like things that need to be done for life skills. Practice using scissors, maybe read 10 minutes. I would also send, like if a student had maybe 4 or 5 sight words that they knew, I would send 1 or 2. If they had 50, 60 sight words, I would send like 3 or 4 for the week, so that they could keep practicing and progressing as well. So, sorry, my pup just joined me. I don't know. What do you feel? You want to?
Yeah, I think there's definitely both sides to it. As a parent, okay, so when I was a teacher, I didn't send any homework home in kindergarten because they could just learn it in classroom, and whatever they don't get, they can get next year in first grade. It's fine. I was pretty low key about that. I did recommend they read every night to their kids because that would, be helpful. But I didn't send home like math homework or phonics homework usually. On the flip side, as a parent, I wish that my daughter's kindergartner teacher did send home things, because I would get all these papers home. I'm like, what do I do with these? Do I read it to her? Do I have her read it to me? Like, are we supposed to do anything with this? Or is it just like these paper books are filed away in the black hole of my house and never to be seen again? Like, what do I do with these paper books that you send home all the time?
Right.
Never was it said, please have your child read this to work on their reading skills.
Right.
So she goes from this kindergarten class, and we moved. And so this first grade class is in a very rigorous school, like super rigorous. So she goes from huge jump and lots of homework. And so she's feeling very lost. Well, last year she felt very lost. And so I wish we had a little bit more homework to get her ready for this, because she's playing catch up for the first semester or so. And in this school, we are required to help them with homework. They get sent home a spelling test that we have to work on every day. We have 20 minutes of reading. You should do everything in less than an hour. Okay, or less.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my daughter's a procrastinator, and she finds all the excuses in the world to, I need water, I need this, and you run around and you play. Okay, fine. But if you get this finished, you can go play.
Right.
Typical 7-year-old behavior. Right? So sometimes it takes longer than an hour because of that. But as a parent, I like seeing a little bit of their homework because I can see where she's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
First half of the year was just phonics. But I'm
Right.
like, how are you doing in math? I don't know. So she gets these math homework home, second half of the year, and she's struggling, like way
Oh.
struggling. And so as a parent, I'm able to give her one-on-one time on her
Mm-hmm.
math homework to help her through it. When you're a class of 30 kids, you don't have that as much.
Right.
So I liked having a little bit of problems at home, like
Yeah.
5-10 minutes worth to help her with that. So
Yeah.
I can see both sides. I don't like having 2 hours of homework at home when she
No,
only has
especially for
like,
these little kids.
yeah, well, she's getting home to like 5 o'clock and bedtime's 8. We got to fit dinner in
Right.
there too. I'm like, and playtime, they need to have stress. It does
Yeah.
take 2 hours because she's a procrastinator. That's not the school's fault. Okay.
Right. I will say, I don't know if I mentioned it, but my homework was always optional for my students. So I would send home, like you said, the parents knew exactly where their child was at because every piece of homework was to their child's needs. So their sight words were different for every child. I did have great parent help that they would come in and, I would have them test their, words of the week, and then they would give them the next couple. So I was very fortunate in that. Other homework ideas we would do is like a family project. Once a month, I would send home like September is usually like, tell me about yourself and your family. And they would draw pictures of who's in their family and that kind of thing. And then they would tell the class, and that way they got used to speaking and talking and taking turns and listening. And so I always loved those family projects as well. But I know some parents are like, oh. But for me, my math homework was usually like, have your child measure the milk in their cereal or something. It wouldn't be worded that way, but have them measure some type of food. And one thing I was fortunate enough is we had a kitchen in my classroom. So we would do cooking in the classroom every Friday, and I could send either a recipe home or something that the student can show, if the parent wanted to, of course, what they made or how they make it or something like that. So I think as teachers, we need to get a little creative when we're sending homework. Maybe it's, a creative, fun way to show what they're learning in class, right? So if we're talking about, halves, well, have your child cut an apple in half if you have the safety knives,
Right.
you know what I mean? But
And I think it's different for pre-readers like preschool and kindergarten versus people who can read more,
oh yeah,
and the homework that comes home with that. I know some parents have the philosophy of, I don't want any homework at home. Like if you
yeah,
bring homework home, it needs to be unfinished work, like
right,
work that just didn't get finished in school that we need to finish up at home. But I
right.
don't need extra on top of. So I see that side too,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to have family fun time. And I totally agree. I mean, the kid has been sitting still for 8 hours. They need to get the energy out. They want to play with their siblings. It's so hard to pull my daughter away from playing with siblings. And, because my other one's been home alone without her sister all
Yeah.
day. I mean, she's with me, but I'm no fun. Like I don't play the same way as her sister plays. So they want to play together. So I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can see both sides.
yeah,
And
me too. That's why I think this is a great discussion, because I see both sides too. I want to know, you want to know what others have put on our post about this?
yeah.
I think we should talk about that. Hey, how are you doing? Guess Doria, wow, your old kindergarten class sounded fun. It was so much fun. I do miss it. All right, let's see. We have one teacher. She said, homework is mostly overrated, but occasionally needed. Here's my 2 cents. Number one, children spend roughly 7 to 7.5 hours in public or private school, but the actual instruction time is about 3 hours. That doesn't include if your child has to go to before and after care, which could end up being a 10-hour day. That does make me sad a little bit too.
Yeah.
And number two, if we would stop thinking that starting school earlier and younger would be more beneficial, we could make some changes. And then she goes on to talk about different schools around the globe, like Finland. Their children don't start till age 7. We had a big discussion about that, but that would probably be another day. Her third thought is, due to major decline of the nuclear family, schools are forced to weave different aspects of learning into their curriculum, such as social emotional issues, social justice issues, and other aspects that were never issues up until about 10 years ago. We are definitely dealing with different things than we were before. I agree with that. Her number 4, homework, if at all, should be no more than 30 minutes a day. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
That's the case. Like her homework is 30 minutes, but then you have the 20 minutes of reading. So I
Yeah.
don't count that in the 30 minutes because then they're like 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's like the 20 minutes of reading outside of the 30 minutes. And yeah, it should be done fast.
Yeah. When my son was in kindergarten, I loved that the teacher sent home number 1 of homework every time was read for however long. And I was not a very good parent in that I didn't read when he was little to him. I wasn't a teacher. Like I didn't enjoy reading. So once that was on the homework, I had to do it, right? Because I'm a rule follower. It says do it. So I found out like it was such a great time to be able to read with my child and read stories to him and buy him books. And so I was really, really glad that that was part of his homework.
I'm going to piggyback on the rule follower part. Okay. My daughter is a rule follower. If her teacher says you need to do this, she'll come home and say, Mommy, I need to do this. Great, let's do it. If your teacher says you don't have to do this, but you can if you want to, she'll come home saying, I don't have to do this. Don't make me do it.
Oh, yeah.
My teacher says I don't have to, so I don't have to.
Yeah.
But you probably should, you know? So, you know, they have maybe strong recommendations from the teachers saying, I do, you know, you need to do this at home because then she'll follow through. So as a teacher, be careful when you tell your kids, especially the young kids, you don't have to do this at home. Means they're not going to.
Yeah, I always called it optional homework to the parents, but to the students, I just called it homework.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. She goes on to talking about her kids when they were in high school. They ended up having part-time jobs and a lot of homework, and it got really busy. And she was a very involved parent, so that was really good.
Yeah, I have a memory of my high school years. I had a high school teacher. I don't remember what subject he taught, but he was big on time management. So he'd often give us overlapping assignments. So we'd have to keep track of one assignment while working on another assignment. And we're like, Mr. So-and-so, please stop doing this because I already have an overlapping project, one in science, one in math, one in English, one in this. I already have 5 subjects that are already overlapping. I don't need 2 from your class.
Right.
He goes, oh, I didn't think about that. You're right. You have more in your life than just my class. You're right. So let's just do one assignment at a time because you're already getting this time management in the whole school day. Like, yes, thank you. Yes. You just don't realize that they're not the whole day for these kids.
Here's another one. She says, I agree with this, Mom. I also agree kids need more practice with things. It happens more natural at home or in small group sizes with all the time suck. The time waste isn't the teacher's fault. The entire modern school system is terrible. I think that's a whole discussion for another day. And my friend Mary, she's another teacher. She did what she calls, or what many of you might call, unschooling. So she says, I have to say, I agree with this parent. There is so much I can say about this topic. I think that childhood has to be preserved, and piling homework on top of a day at school seems so stifling for the child. There is so much more to life than the subjects taught at school. I'm also concerned about what homework teaches our children about work-life balance. When does the child get to explore what they are passionate about if the school day doesn't end when the bell rings? So, and she's glad she homeschooled or unschooled. And I think that's a great point. But I feel like she was awesome about it. She tells us stories about it all the time, right? And I feel like some parents don't do those things though. So the child just sits at home with video games too. Now, I'm not saying homework should, replace that because they need to be kids. But some of the things, like she talks about taking her son camping and doing all of these things. And he wanted to study bears. So she's like, let's go study bears. Like, what better science is it than to go out there and do it and study? And so, yeah. Let's see. Teacher Kelly tried to get in. Is she in?
No, she said
I
her computer's slow.
Yeah, but I admitted her. She tried to
Oh.
be in here. All right, so I'll check on that in just a second. So your thoughts on what they're saying, Rebecca? What do you think?
I think homeschooling is for a lot of people, but not everybody.
I agree.
I am a teacher. I love teaching. My kids see me as mom.
Yeah.
They don't see me as teacher.
Yeah.
So they can get away with a lot of things because you're not my teacher.
Right.
So I know that you'd have to get over that divide. I know when I was homeschooled many eons ago, my brother and I, when it was homeschool time, it was teacher. And then after
Yeah.
homeschool time was mom or dad.
Right.
Like we had this different name to it. So then we know, okay, this is teacher mom. This isn't just
Right.
mom. uh, and so you have to, get over that. I feel like my kids do learn better from another teacher than they
Yeah.
do from me. I can do fun games with them. I can do extracurricular stuff with them. I'm great with that. But
Yeah.
there's some kids that just need a teacher.
Yeah.
Another person, somebody else.
I love my children, but I didn't want to be their teacher all the time either. You know what I mean?
Right, like it's hard enough to get through the hour of homework. I don't think I can make it through a 6-8 hour day and try to get, some academic things in there too. Like they need to learn how to read in order
Right.
to explore the rest of life. You do have to kind of trudge through that a little bit at the beginning in the early ages, and then you can start exploring things and studying things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to do your basic facts first, math facts,
Yeah.
phonics a little bit.
I mean, even for homework for my kids, I used to bribe one of them with Skittles.
Oh, I do that all the time too. Yeah, when
her
she starts
spelling words.
fading, I'm like, you got 20 spelling words. Every 5 you get an M&M, or every 1 you get M&M. Like, I don't care if it still goes to dinner. Enjoy your 20 M&Ms. It's not going to be the biggest deal, sure.
Right. Yeah.
I do that to
Hey,
myself, so
Kelly.
do it to her.
All right, everyone. So joining us is teacher Kelly, and she has taught some older students, older grades, and she's got her children are between mine and Rebecca's. So this is really interesting that we have all three of us here. So Kelly, how you doing?
Good. And I've been listening to you guys even before I got on, so I want to comment on some of the younger ages before we move on. I mean, so I could relate to all of that. I always took the 20 minutes of reading seriously and did it, but nobody was ever checking. So if a student or parent wanted to get away with not doing it, you could, but I tried to do that with both my kids because reading, is important. And I maybe a little bit, but a lot I don't want. And the same, my son's kindergarten teacher did what you did, Casey, is made it optional. And it sounded like a lot of parents were asking as well.
Yeah.
So let's see what I'm trying to think. I know there were a couple other things I wanted to comment on that you guys said, but it'll come back to me. Oh, about homeschooling. Yeah. I actually homeschooled my daughter for a year out of necessity because she was like really sick, but it was the same issue. She's more motivated to do something for someone else than me as her mom. And it's hard to have both roles, because then she went back to school and then she would push herself even when she was tired or feeling sick to like finish that assignment, where she wouldn't push herself with me.
Right.
So, I feel the same way. Like I'd rather be a teacher or be a mom and not be both. It didn't work for me. Yeah. But I know a lot of people do it successfully.
Yeah.
Just depends on the mother and the child.
Right.
So we're all different.
Agree. Or the father.
Well, right.
Yes.
Don't want to leave them out. Lots of times both will homeschool.
Yeah. I don't want any hate mail for that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. Usually it's the mom, but lots of times the father helps too. So yes.
Yeah.
But they use your primary, and then there's a secondary who might not know exactly what's going on.
Right.
And so if they substitute, it doesn't always work so well.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So you wanted me to talk about middle and high school, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I remember, like what Rebecca was saying, that like I had 6 classes and I remember each one of them not remembering that you had 5 other classes.
Yeah.
Like even if you just had homework in all the main classes, that's still like the main 4 subjects. I remember a biology teacher giving us like an hours of homework and we tried to talk to her about it and she's like, it's only an hour. Yeah, but we have 5 other classes. Yeah.
Right.
And teachers just not understanding that. And I feel like at least where I live, things have gotten better in that area because I don't see my kids getting as much. And also they only take 4 classes now. So they like lengthen them. And it actually is really nice because you could take a full year class in a semester because of that, because they're longer, you know, the time is longer. So they actually have an option of half semester or full semester. And my daughter was actually able to do high school in 3 years because she missed a lot of her freshman year. So, I mean, I kind of like that. And I think it'd be better to concentrate on less. I remember being in college and I loved summer classes just for that reason. You had one class in a short amount of time. And then for me, it was easier to like remember the material when it came to the final because, you know, it was a short time. And so it was newer in your mind. You didn't have other classes you were thinking about. Whereas like the final exams, you know, after 3 to 6 months, when you have so many other classes, were a lot harder to remember all that material. But as a middle school teacher, I taught middle school last semester. I know our school told us to not give any homework. I taught history and that only the English and math teachers were supposed to give homework. So I feel like things are getting better in that area. You know, they're trying to like only the 2 main. And I do think subjects like math, you know, need the practice, you know. So yeah, that's what I have to say about it all.
The practice, the help.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's Shalene. I know it was you. I just couldn't spit out my words at the beginning. She said, great discussion to prepare me for what to expect when I have kids. So Shalene put in there, would you want to have homework? Do you think it's important? What do you think as someone that doesn't have children in school yet? Because that's interesting too. And that might change once you have kiddos. I don't know. I always had a ton of homework.
Yeah.
But it was probably partly my fault for not finishing in class because I mean, you know, I may have talked and played a little bit too much.
I do feel like nowadays teachers are giving in high school more work days. So they'll present the topic for the first little bit of class and say, okay, now work on it. So then you have some built-in time in the school day to work on your project, however you want to do it. And then if you don't finish it, then you can take it home. But they're not doing everything at home. Now, some people don't use those work days, but at least they're there. And I like that fact that they're there so people can do some research in the library at school or whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys heard of, oops, sorry. Have you heard of flip classes? They were playing around with that. I say playing, it's not really playing, but they were working on that and trying that at a school that I came from. And basically the kids would do the homework or learn, you know, have some type of concept of what they're going to learn the next day first. So the kids would watch a video or learn a little bit about it at home. And then the next day was more teaching of that subject. So sometimes the kids came in and had a good grasp of it. And then they were able to move on. Like, it was really interesting. We'd have to look more into that one, but
yeah, I like that way of doing it, but you have to get like this sort of sweet spot. I don't think you could flip classroom in kindergarten or first grade.
Yeah.
They need to have that basic knowledge. They like upper elementary, middle school, you know, you could send a video home and watch it, but you have to accommodate for people who didn't do the pre-work.
Yeah. This is middle and high school math, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that'd be hard. I would think like me, I learned best in math by like hearing the teacher show you how to do it. If I tried to learn it from a book, they
would have their videos. So the teacher would make a video. I learned better. I learned better doing
Yeah, same.
So-
I liked in class, they would show you and then you do it together before you did a
Yeah.
homework. I mean, I think that could work for some subjects. I just don't think something like math where you really need the instruction would work as well.
I'll have
Yeah.
to reach out to them.
Things like social studies could work is read this
Yeah.
article tonight. Tomorrow we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, that,
Social studies.
yeah, that kind of stuff could work.
Yeah.
Kelly's subjects are not my subjects. Give me math and science.
Yeah.
Social studies and history, the dates. I can't remember stuff.
You don't have to remember dates anymore because now the whole philosophy, well, first of all, I hated memorizing dates, which is why I hated also social studies when I was younger. I like learning about people, but like nowadays the philosophy is they can just look up the dates on the internet. Like, you know, so there's less concentration in making them memorize dates. You know, it's a lot more do a project on this concept or this, you know, time period. So there is a lot less of that now, Casey.
Yeah.
So
I would probably enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So anybody have any final thoughts on homework in the classroom? I kind of think it's still up in the air. We agree and not agree for it. I mean,
a little bit.
Yeah. I like the fact that there should be a time limit.
Yes.
Like it shouldn't be a mountain of homework every night. Because you're right, we probably only have about 4 hours with the kids at night, depending on when they get home and when bedtime is. And you got to fit dinner in there sometime. So it needs to be an hour or less of homework, knowing kids are going to procrastinate. Okay. And so each class should only give like 10 to 20 minutes with it, like a quick thing, because we have multiple subjects. Even in elementary school, my daughter comes home with spelling and math and her reading log, and sometimes her extra math homework, and then occasionally a study guide for social studies. Not often, but if there's a test coming up, we review it. So sometimes there's a lot of things for a second grader. So we have to go, okay, let's do this. So it shouldn't be a huge amount of stuff.
Does she have different teachers?
No, she has one main teacher.
Yeah.
Still in second grade. And so only one time that I didn't like that the fact that she had a math test the next day. So we had to review the math worksheet. Fine. But then she assigned extra math homework on top of that. I'm like, why? And the next day, there's no math at all. I'm like, you could have assigned the math homework the second night and not the first night when we had to do 2 math things. Maybe look ahead, plan ahead, saying, okay, well, I'm having them walk through the study guide tonight. I'm going to save the 2 pages of math worksheets for the next night. So plan ahead, teachers.
Me. I told you I sent home weekly homework, and you just reminded me. For math, I had lots of games. We had a whole book on games that went with each. You would like. I've told you about this before because that's the way you teach too. But they had a whole book that went with our math curriculum, all different games. So like a deck of cards, like the whole school year, you could use a deck of cards for so many games, like greater than, less than, and or I would send home a, that looked like cards 0 through 10 or whatever, and they could cut them out and use them like that. And so I think it got parents to play games with their kids. It was optional, so they didn't have to, but I think it was so much fun because they were able to play with their kids, where I think sometimes as parents nowadays you get so busy, it's like, okay, I'll be there in a minute, and you don't really get back to them all the time. So I don't know, I think, like I said before, teachers need to get creative with some of this homework. Let's sit back and wait for comments of what's going to come in this week. So
sometimes it's harder than others. Last year was hard for us because we had a first grader and then a 2-year-old and then a newborn. The newborn took a lot of our time, so it's hard to help it. This year's a little bit better because now we've got a 4-year-old. She just had her birthday.
She's a big girl.
Oh no, you want to move the cat so you can have a seat? Okay, you can move the cat. Hello, kitty cat.
Awesome.
You can sit there. Okay. There we go.
Super fun. So guys, don't forget to put comments in the chat box. We want to know what your thoughts are. I know some people are really passionate about this subject. I would love to know, as you're commenting, are you commenting from a teacher standpoint, a parent, both? We want to know. So let's get some discussions in the chat and we'll check back in with you. So don't forget to check out Teacher Kelly and Teacher Rebecca's I can't talk now, channel. And I will put them in the description box below so you can check them out. And don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Rebecca. Bye, Victoria.
Bye, Victoria.